let's talk about Whiteout. This will be your eighth full-length album, and it was
Hmm.
released on July 15th of this year through Self-Made God Records.
Hmm.
You talked a little bit about how the writing process for this album was longer than what you guys usually do
Yeah.
due to the COVID social distancing restrictions. When did you guys actually start working on this?
The first rehearsals we did when we started jamming on some first ideas, that was like early 2019, actually. And, but due to many like obligations, I had my, touring schedule, and Sebastian had some stuff to do as well. It wasn't really, things didn't go forward very fast, but we did start the first jamming sessions in, I think that was January or February 2019. So that's quite a long time ago, actually. And every now and then we would, in some free time, we would just continue slowly writing stuff. We had a couple of other ideas that, they didn't end up on the album eventually. Sometime in the process, we figured, maybe they're not that great. It's just, chose a different path for a little bit. Then COVID came, basically, so that stopped everything for quite some time. Me myself, I had a break from drumming for like almost 8 months, actually, in 2020. So it was a long time. We didn't actually even meet. And then we got the new rehearsal space in I think that was August 2020 or something like that. And that's where we actually started again, to meet up regularly and continue working on the album, like from where we left it earlier. And ever since, we kind of started to practice pretty much every day. I remember slowly writing and practicing this stuff as well, because it's pretty complex. I mean, and it was quite a long way to be able to pull it off. To be honest, like every time we do something, we try to rise the bar for ourselves. So actually, when I write drum parts, I write stuff which I'm totally unable to play at the time. It's just so over the top, and then I just have to. It's like, okay, this sounds good. Now I have to learn it. So yeah, it takes a lot of time to perfect the actual playing and being able to pull it off in one take. And yeah, we started recording, I think it was either May or April 21. I don't really remember precisely right now because it's been a while already. So yeah, it's been another year later already. That's where we started recording drums. We did drums in like, I think, 3 days, then guitars at the same session. Then we did bass in our bass player's home studio. And then we took the time to arrange the vocals, work on the lyrics, work a lot on we did spend a lot of time, me and Sebastian, together with Vukash, on pushing the let's say the vocal lines to the max, like trying to squeeze as much as we can from it and make it, powerful and a little bit untypical, let's say. So like the phrasing, so it's not like your regular thing you get all the time. So that was quite an effort, actually. Remember, we had to, sometimes we had to cut up the lyrics completely and try to like realign everything, and that took a while. And then Łukasz recorded vocals in his home studio over the next couple of months, and then we did the mixing at JNS. That's where we recorded the drums and guitars. And then in the end, everything went for mastering to James Plotkin in the US. And then the initial release date was set for, I think, October or September 21. That was the initial idea. But because of a few things, including the whole problems with like printing vinyls and like the printing plants have the you have to wait pretty much a year right now, if not more, to get an album pressed. So that's also something that kind of got us waiting, because we wanted to have, all the formats ready at the same time. We didn't want to release the CD, and then wait another like 6-7 months for the vinyl, because it doesn't really make any sense. So that's basically why it took so long in the end.
I believe you said August 2020 is when you guys were finally able to get together and work on the album.
Yeah, after like since the pandemic, yeah, that's when we started. So then we rehearsed for like a year, almost a year, and actual album was recorded and ready around October 21.
By August 2020, how much of the album was complete? How many songs did you guys have done?
We had 4 or 5 songs. I don't necessarily remember exactly which ones, but I think the order on the album didn't really change much from the order that we wrote them in. Kind of a few changes, but not much, which is also interesting. So they were created pretty much in a similar order. I think we had the first 2 or 3 tracks done, like finished, and then we had 2 more which still needed work, some riffs here and there, like unfinished ideas and stuff. That's where we picked it up in August 2020. Yeah.
You mentioned that you want to raise the bar with each album. On this album, how do you compare what you did for Whiteout with what you've done on previous albums? How did you guys raise the bar this time?
For me personally, as a drummer, I was, making it even faster than before, basically. That's one of the elements. Then, some complex patterns with my feet and like, overall things that were really uncomfortable to play or pretty much impossible at the tempo that we kind of wanted it to play at, and so I would say that, and some, basically it's usually like rhythmic patterns which are pretty awkward here and there, and raising the speed basically. In the end, that's where it is. And for Sebastian, it's pretty much the same. I mean, he's got some crazy fast hands on guitar. I mean, his left hand is insane. But even for him, it was a pretty big struggle because the riffs are really, really complex. So it took us a while to like practice that to the point where we didn't make too many mistakes. Let's say.
We were speaking about the recording of the album a little bit, and how the tracks were recorded remotely. Is that correct?
Remotely.
So the vocals were recorded in...
Oh, right. You mean in different places? Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. We did record the guitars and the drums in one place. Then the bass and the vocals were done in the guys' home studios, basically, because both of them have their little artistic corner, let's say. But they have pretty good equipment and stuff, and then so we did it that way this time, just to have more time basically to work on stuff, because when you're in the studio with everything, you just get charged by the hour basically. So everything seems, for me, especially with vocals, things seem a little bit rushed, especially when you want to experiment a little bit and try different ways of doing the same thing. So this really helped with that, because we could use all the time we need just to make it right.
And so it wasn't necessarily because of the COVID restrictions or anything related to that.
No, we totally could do it in a studio, like in the same place we did the drums and the guitars, the JNS. But we talked with Pawel, Paweł Grabowski, the sound engineer, and he told us basically, Łukasz sent him like a demo recording of of the signal that he's got set up in his studio. He said it's totally fine. He told him what to take care of when he's recording, and then everything was fine. So it was mainly because we wanted to just have all the time we need to make it right, and just try different ways and different arrangements. We had a couple of versions of a few songs actually, and then we chose like the one we liked the most. So it would be pretty hard if you go to a studio where you only have like 4 days for vocals or something, or less, then we'd have to stick to one version, and we could never check, if an alternative idea is better or not. So that was the only reason for that, actually.
And is this the first time that you've worked in this way?
Not the first time entirely, because Łukasz used to do, I mean, back in the past, in the previous albums, he would record the main vocals in the studio and then do all the freaky, crazy, voices and like effects at his home studio. So then play around with that a little bit, but then we would do the main vocals, in the studio, and he would have them like ready beforehand. But this time, we just chose to have full freedom and time to basically fix it. Since there wasn't an album out in a long time, we just didn't want to let it be rushed at this last element, let's say.
Yeah. And you recorded your drum parts at JNS.
Yes,
is that correct?
Exactly. Actually, technically speaking, I did record my drums at our rehearsal space, which is just upstairs from the studio. Because it's so the guy just basically had all the cables and set up the mics here, and then he was sitting downstairs in the studio. But one of the reasons for that was we wanted to try a different drum room sound. We really like the way he's doing. Janos is making the sound and like his way of working. But we wanted to try a different room, basically. So it's the drums are a little bit in your face, a little bit more, not as woomy, let's say, as before. And we did a test recording. We tried how it works here when we were recording the live streaming show a few months earlier than before the album. And yeah, we were like, yeah, let's experiment. Let's just try something new this time, So the whole process was basically an experiment all along. But I think it came out pretty good.
And Janos is somebody that has worked with Antigama for about 10 years now. Why has the relationship lasted this long? Why do you think it works so well?
Because we understand each other very well. We have similar views on life and everything. Me and Sebastian and the guys. We basically we're a family at this point. We've been through a lot over the years, both good and bad, and I think everyone understands each other very well, and it just works. So there's no bad blood at all, which is not that common actually in bands, from my experience as well. It's always something, but yeah, here it's just it's working really well. Simply,
So I'm curious, with the members working on their parts in different locations,
mm-hmm.
When did you actually get to hear the complete album and the way it sounded with everything put together?
You mean in like a raw version or mixed, mastered?
Like a raw mix or like an early mix?
Yeah, so we had like a quick mix that our sound engineer did for us with the instrumental parts and with the bass added on top of that. And then we took this as like a mix down and basically took it to Łukasz home studio. And basically we could actually hear more or less what it's going to sound like on the fly. When he was recording his parts, he would have like a little mix, plug in and just like glue it together. And then we could kind of hear what it would sound like, more or less, at least as far as the form and shape of it. So we could basically judge on the spot, if we need to change anything, like a particular word here or there, or that kind of things. But finished album, I only heard that when we got the mix from Pawel, from Paweł Grabowski. Oh, when was that exactly? I don't actually remember very well, but I would say that would have to be around September or October 21. And then we were waiting for the mastering, so yeah, just to have this final touch.